I used a Ouija board and got a bad spirit. I'm pretty sure I closed it out properly. But I heard some really scary things at 4 in the morning. It all started, innocently enough. My friends and I were looking for something fun to do on a Saturday night. We decided to try using a Ouija board, just for kicks. We all gathered around the board, candles flickering in the dimly lit room. I placed my hands on the planchette and asked,
"Is there anyone here with us?"
The planchette started moving on its own, spelling out the word,
"Yes."
We all looked at each other, amazed. We continued to ask questions, and the planchette continued to move, spelling out answers that seemed to come from beyond the grave. It was eerie and exhilarating all at once. But then, things took a turn for the worse. I asked,
"What is your name?"
The planchette moved quickly and spelled out the name.
Zozo.
I didn't think much of it at the time, but now I know that Zozo is a known malevolent spirit that has been summoned through Ouija boards in the past. I wish I had known that then. We continued to ask questions, and Zozo seemed to be getting angrier and more agitated with each passing moment. Suddenly, the planchette moved violently, spelling out the words,
"I am here to hurt you."
We all gasped in terror and quickly said goodbye, moving the planchette to the
"Goodbye"
spot on the board. I thought that was the end of it. I was wrong. Later that night, I woke up to strange noises coming from the other room. At first, I thought it was just my imagination, but then I heard it again. It sounded like someone was scratching at the walls. I got out of bed and went to investigate. When I opened the door to the other room, I saw something that I will never forget for as long as I live. Standing in the middle of the room was a figure, shrouded in darkness. It was tall and menacing, and I could feel its malevolent energy emanating from it. I tried to scream, but my throat was paralyzed with fear. The figure turned its head towards me, and I saw its eyes, or lack thereof. They were dark pits of emptiness that seemed to suck the light out of the room. The figure started moving towards me, and I stumbled backwards, tripping over my own feet. I fell to the ground and felt a cold hand grip my ankle. I tried to kick it off, but it was too strong. I could feel its grip tightening, and I knew that I was in serious trouble. Suddenly, I heard my friends calling my name. The figure released its grip on my ankle and disappeared into thin air. My friends rushed into the room, asking me what had happened. I told them everything, but they didn't believe me. They thought I was just having a nightmare. The next few days were a blur of terror and confusion. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was watching me, even when I was alone in my room. I started hearing strange noises again, but this time they were accompanied by whispers that I couldn't understand. It was like the spirits were trying to communicate with me, but I couldn't make out what they were saying. Then, one night, I woke up at 4 in the morning to the sound of my name being whispered in my ear. I sat up in bed and looked around, but there was no one there. My heart was pounding in my chest, and I felt the cold sweat on my forehead. I tried to tell myself that it was just my imagination, but deep down, I knew that it wasn't. I had a feeling that something was going to happen, something terrible. I decided to go to the bathroom and splash some water on my face. As I walked towards the door, I heard a soft creaking sound behind me. I turned around, and my heart stopped. Standing in the corner of the room was the figure from before, only this time it was closer, and I could see it more clearly. It was tall and thin, with long, spindly arms and legs. Its face was hidden in shadow, but I could see its eyes, or rather, the lack of them. They were dark pits of emptiness that seemed to suck the light out of the room. I froze, unable to move or speak. The figure started moving towards me, its steps slow and deliberate. I could feel its malevolent energy emanating from it, filling the room with dread and terror. Suddenly, the figure stopped in its tracks. It tilted its head to the side, as if listening to something. Then, it turned around and disappeared into thin air. I stood there, shaking with fear and confusion. I didn't know what was happening, or why it was happening to me. All I knew was that I had to find a way to stop it. The next day, I went to a local psychic and explained my situation. She told me that I had indeed summoned a malevolent spirit through the Ouija board, and that it was now attached to me. She gave me some advice on how to protect myself, such as carrying protective crystals and burning sage in my room. She also told me to be careful, as the spirit was likely to become more aggressive as time went on. I followed her advice and tried to protect myself as best I could. But it wasn't enough. The spirit continued to torment me, appearing at random times and whispering in my ear. I could feel its presence everywhere I went, like a dark cloud hanging over me. One night, I was lying in bed, trying to sleep. I had burned sage earlier, hoping to ward off the spirit. But it didn't work. Suddenly, I heard a loud banging sound, like someone was trying to break down the door. I sat up in bed, my heart racing. The banging continued, getting louder and more frantic. Then, I heard a voice that I recognized all too well.
I am here to hurt you.
The voice said, cold and malevolent. I tried to scream, but my throat was paralyzed with fear. I could feel the spirit getting closer and closer, its malevolent energy filling the room. Suddenly, the banging stopped, and everything was quiet. I sat there, shaking and trembling, waiting for something to happen. But nothing did. The next day, I decided that enough was enough. I couldn't live like this anymore. I needed to find a way to get rid of the spirit, once and for all. I did some research and found out about a ritual that was supposed to banish malevolent spirits. It involved burning sage and saying a prayer, while holding a piece of protective crystal. It sounded simple enough, but I knew that it would be anything but. That night, I gathered all of my supplies and prepared to perform the ritual. I lit the sage and held the crystal tightly in my hand. I closed my eyes and said the prayer, feeling the words reverberate through my body. Suddenly, I felt a sharp pain in my chest. It was like something was trying to claw its way out of me. I gritted my teeth, trying to fight the pain. I knew that the spirit was trying to resist the banishing, and that I had to stay strong. I continued reciting the prayer, feeling the energy of the crystal in my hand. The pain intensified, and I could feel sweat pouring down my face. But I didn't stop. I couldn't stop. Suddenly, there was a blinding flash of light, and I felt a surge of energy rush through me. The pain stopped, and I opened my eyes to see that the room was filled with a warm, golden light. The spirit was nowhere to be seen. I sighed with relief, feeling the weight of the world lifted off my shoulders. I had done it. I had banished the spirit. From that day on, my life returned to normal. I didn't hear any more whispers in the night, and I didn't see any more ghostly figures. But the memory of that terrifying experience stayed with me, a constant reminder of the dangers that lurk in the spiritual world. I learned a valuable lesson that day, that the Ouija board is not a toy, and that it should be treated with respect and caution. I also learned that the power of the human spirit is stronger than any malevolent force, and that with determination and faith, we can overcome even the darkest of obstacles. As for the Ouija board, I never touched it again. It was locked away in a drawer, a constant reminder of the danger that lay within. And I made a promise to myself that I would never let myself be drawn into the darkness again, no matter how curious or adventurous I felt. I was grateful for the experience, as it taught me a valuable lesson about the power of the spiritual world. But I was also glad that it was over, and that I could finally move on with my life, free from the shadow of the past. But last night, I woke up bolt upright in my bed, sweaty and breathing hard. A small voice in the back of my mind whispered,
What if it's not really gone?